Hey, good morning, one and all. It's Wednesday morning's devotion. I hope you're in for a really fantastic day today. I'm excited about it. Anyway, we're talking about David in the book of 1 Samuel, and we find ourselves in chapter 22 right now. Fascinating period of time. I'm enjoying some of the lessons and the stuff that we get to learn by way of understanding what it is to pass certain tests. Remember, we said David was running from Saul. He defended Saul. Saul was after him. And so David did what many of us do when we feel rejected or misunderstood. We head for the hills and we find ourselves a cave to hide in. We find a place of cave just to kind of lick our wounds. And David did just that. We said two things on Monday. We said that David found something good in the cave. And there might be something good because David found God in the cave. People, listen, if you have run into the cave of depression or despair or somewhere where you feel that you can find solace, somewhere where you can find comfort, the God of comfort is able to meet you in the cave that you find. If all you do is find a cave, you're only halfway there. If you can find the God who's ready to meet you in the cave and give to you the comfort only He can give, you've done well. You found something good in the cave. I hope you find it. The second thing is we found that David found purpose in the cave as well. 400 men gathered there with him and said, David, we're in the same position as you. We're rejected, we've been misunderstood, and we haven't a clue what to do with ourselves. Can we share your cave? And David said, well, okay, you can share the cave. I'm sure he didn't do it all that well, but he said, you can share the cave. And the men came and said, David, what can you do with us? Can you make anything good of us? We're not very sharp. We're not the best soldiers in the world, but could you make an army of us? And David turned those squandery little bunch of people into some of the finest fighting soldiers in his army. In fact, some of them are numbered amongst the great ones of David. And we'll talk about that in the book of 2 Samuel. And David used what he found in the cave to find a purpose to serve God. And he created this great army. In your cave, should you be there, look for purpose within the cave. Generally, it can be found amongst the people who share the cave with you, because we said how people who are miserable kind of bond together. Misery always likes comfort and likes company, and so they find one another. Don't waste your time in the cave pondering continually about yourself. Look for others that you can encourage. Look for others that you can find them to help them to find purpose in their lives. And then the next thing that I wanted to speak to you about today is you read a little bit later on in verse 5, where we read that the prophet Gad came to David. And David would have been surprised to see the prophet in his cave. And he said to Gad, Gad, what do you want? And Gad said, well, I have a message for you, David. And David said, well, what is it? And Gad basically said to David, David, you're too comfortable in your cave. You're too comfortable. It's glad that you found God. I'm glad you found comfort in raising up people and finding purpose in them. But now the cave that you find to comfort you is now become the cave that confines you. David, you're a king, and you can't rule from a cave. Kings don't sit in caves and rule people. Get out of the cave. But he uses an interesting word here. He says to David, get out of your stronghold. I wonder if there isn't an implication there for us. You see, when we run to our cave, we develop a mindset. We sometimes will find God. We sometimes find purpose in the cave. If we don't, we take on a victim's mentality. But before we take on the victim's mentality, you must understand that that is a strong hold on your mind. And Gad may have been saying, David, before this becomes too much of a stronghold and is too much of a stronghold upon your mind, David, you've got to get out of the cave. You're a king. You can't rule the kingdom from a cave. So while you're in your cave, people, find God, find purpose in your cave, but listen for the words of Gad, who will come to you and say, hey, time's up now. Get out of the cave. Get back into life. Get back in the game of life. You may have felt that God had yellow carded you for a while. Maybe that's true. But God will never red card you to say you're out of the game continually. So to you who are sitting in your caves today, you are finding comfort, You who are being confined by the place that you find comfort, it's time to get out of the cave. It's time to get back into life. For those of you who've been disappointed by the church, disappointed by people in the church, disappointed by me, I don't know what you may be disappointed in. Don't sit in your cave for too long. There's no lifetime of joy found in the cave. You've got to listen to Gad. And before it becomes a stronghold in your mind, you may need to get out of the cave. Get back in the game. If Corona has caused you to get in the cave, get out of the cave now. Make your move. Get back into fellowship. Get it back into service of God. Because as a king, you can't rule from a cave. Have a great day, people. Think about these great thoughts. See you tomorrow. Bye.